Resident Evil is coming back to the big screen in 2026. But will this new movie do justice to the legacy of the horror franchise? Hey, Antonio from ThyGeekdom.com here, and recently Deadline, they shot out an article talking about how Sony has confirmed that they will be releasing another Resident Evil movie in 2026. Now, hey guys, it is Antonio from the future. I forgot to mention something in the video. We do have a free image giveaway. Details at the end of the video, so enjoy. Now back to the regular program. I'm a big Resident Evil fan to the point where like I've played every single game, and I absolutely love the last installments that were first person shooters, as well as the remakes of Resident Evil 2 and 3. Resident Evil 2 being I prefer that one over the third one. Now, haven't played the remake of Resident Evil 4 yet, though I do own it, so it is in my queue. But that being said, it's just to just say that I really do love this franchise, and I've thoroughly been disappointed about every single movie that has been released on theaters. I didn't even watch the last movie, which apparently I believe was a more faithful adaptation of the video games, especially I think the second video game, Resident Evil 2, because it takes place in Raccoon City, if I'm not mistaken, or I think it's kind of splices number 1 and number 2 together. And I never watched that. I mean, it looked cool because from the trailers in terms of the characters and their visual portrayal, because they were wearing, you know, the costumes from the actual video game. But I just saw quite a few reviews and didn't really get me excited to go watch it, so I never actually checked it out. Maybe at some point I'll look at it on Netflix or some streaming service. But anyways, that's all to say that really the movies of Resident Evil have never really been great, although I do have to admit I've watched every single one. For whatever reason, I always went to watch the next one and next installment with the hope that they would learn along the way, and unfortunately they never did. Like every single movie that was released with Mila Jovovich, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but with the the main protagonist that was basically led the first 6 movies of Resident Evil, none of them were great. I mean, I'll be honest, I did enjoy some of them, specifically the first one. I liked some things about it. It was very different from the video games, although they took some like story beats. But overall, I did enjoy it. I thought it was lackluster, but just being the first Resident Evil movie in the theaters, it was nice at least to get something out of it. And then Resident Evil 2, I think it was Apocalypse. That's when they showed Nemesis, and they brought in like characters like Jill and Carlos, which, that pair is they're paired up together in Resident Evil 3, and Resident Evil 3, the original one, is actually one of my favorite Resident Evils. So anyways, that's all to say that all the movies have been kind of a disappointment, and so this announcement from Sony, it's kind of cool that we're gonna try to go back to it, but at the end of the day, I'm not sure how I should feel about it. Will this movie be any good, or will they actually learn something from their past mistakes of not really adapting the source material and doing justice to the franchise? I don't know. Ideally, they should just make a straight adaptations of the video games, in my opinion. They should just maybe adapt it in a way that would fit film better, of course, since video games and movies are two different mediums and two different formats, so there's a lot of considerations you have to have for both, right? But hopefully they do something a little bit more faithful. You know, who knows, maybe they'll make a whole new movie franchise, new movie universe out of this, and decide to actually adapt each installment of the video games in order. Who knows? I mean, I think that would be great to see that. But at the end of the day, you know, we won't know until we get it. That being said, today I wanted to go through the article just to learn a little bit more about this upcoming release and who's involved and all that, and basically just give you my thoughts. So let's go back to the article here. So yeah, if we look through it, we got Sony boards Zack Cregger's Resident Evil sets fall 2026 release date. Okay, so this is Zack Cregger's exclusive Resident Evil franchise reboot with Barbarian and weapon filmmaker Zack Cregger directing. Will stay at Sony. Okay, so I wasn't familiar with Zack Cregger, his name specifically, but I did see Barbarian, and I gotta say, Barbarian had a lot of, you know, had like some similarities to like the original Resident Evil, in the sense, like, I don't want to get too deep into the story, but essentially the movie Barbarian starts off one way in a house. Basically, I mean, you get that from the trailer, so there's no spoilers there, but it starts in a house, and then let's just say that the main characters discover a few things that expand the plot and make it more than what you thought it was in the beginning. I'm not gonna lie, towards the end it got a little wacky. Again, no specifics, but Barbarian was actually a pretty good film, and I gotta say, if this guy did Barbarian, I'm actually hesitantly optimistic just from that, because it was well handled overall. The story and the actors did a pretty good job. Again, the ending was a little bit off, but there's connecting the dots, like, from that movie to like what could possibly come in a Resident Evil movie with this director. I think there's potential there. So anyways, let's keep reading here. All right, so we got Warner Brothers was kicking the tires of this latest Cregger pick, but Sony isn't letting this $1 billion grossing franchise go. Theatrical release date of September 18, 2026 has been set. Okay, so we got a ways to go still, a little over a year. All right, but we have that, which tells, okay, so September 18, 2026 has been set, which tells you how excited the studios are to get this latest rendition up on screen. Cregger's screenplay, which was co-written with Shay Hatton, Ballerina, John Wick, Chapter 3 and 4, okay, is under wraps, but apparently harkens back to the original Capcom games horror roots. Okay, we'll see. I mean, they've said that probably for every movie, I'm sure, and never was the case. But I don't know who Shay Hatton is, but Ballerina I know is a spinoff from John Wick, so that's probably going to be pretty cool. I love John Wick Chapter 3 and 4. I mean, honestly, can we say John Wick has been a solid franchise overall, like with every single movie. Honestly, I mean, that franchise has been, I mean, obviously it's not like there's a lot of, it's not thought-provoking, but man, it's just a fun movie franchise overall. And I absolutely, I think that it's Keanu Reeves, like, it's Keanu Reeves in his prime. I mean, it's his best role aside from Neo from Matrix 1. but yeah, no, I mean, based on who's involved so far, I gotta say, like, fingers crossed, you know, there's some hope, but anyway, I'm not gonna get too excited. And yeah, like they say, it's gonna harken back to Capcom, so, you know, with Cregger's involved, who did Barbarian, that gives me a little bit of hope coming from him. But I honestly am not super familiar with much more of his work. Like, I didn't see that movie Weapon, so I'll have to check that out. But with Barbarian under, you know, from his portfolio, and then this other guy that wrote Ballerina, or co-wrote Ballerina and John Wick 3 and 4, okay, there's some possibilities. So anyways, let's continue on with that. All right. Okay, so Constantine, we're gonna go right over here. Okay, so Constantine Film is produced and Constantine Film is producing and co-financing the film. Constantine's Robert Kolzer, Vertigo Entertainment's Roy Lee, Barbarian, Minecraft, Mary Yoon, Woman of Hour, Weapons. Okay, so they're involved in some of the same projects with the writers and the director or the filmmaker. And PlayStation Productions are also producing, of course. This is a quote. I've been a rabid fan of these games for decades, and to be able to bring this amazing title to life is a true honor, Cregger told Deadline on Friday. All right, well, hopefully he really is a big fan and does justice to Resident Evil. Okay, so here we go. They're acknowledging their past mistakes. No, but all right, so here we go. So Sony Pictures released Sony Pictures released all previous Resident Evil films, including the Paul W.S. Anderson directed Milo Jovovich titles, as well as the 2021 version from director Johannes Roberts, Resident Evil Raccoon City, which was the movie that I said that I didn't watch out of all the movies that Sony has made. But anyways, Raccoon City. At 1.2 billion worldwide, Resident Evil is one of the highest grossing video game feature franchises. Okay, great. Not far from Super Mario Brothers movie, which was a cute little film. I actually enjoyed it. That was a neat film. I'm actually curious to see. I don't know if it was announced, but I believe that if it hasn't been announced, I'm sure there's going to be another Super Mario Brothers movie. So I'm seeing where they go from there. Like I thought, anyways, that's not the point of this. And all right, Super Mario's movie, not far. Okay, and then the Sonic Hedgehog trilogy. Man, that Sonic Hedgehog has done really well. Full transparency, I haven't seen a single film from that trilogy, but I'll check it out at some point. Okay, and then Cregger became one of the most sought-after horror filmmakers, after Barbarian, which was critically acclaimed. Pretty good film. If you haven't checked it out, I recommend it. Just, you'll get surprised by the end, let's just say that. This next film is anticipated. His next film is the anticipated Weapons. Oh, so that movie hasn't even come out yet. Okay. Weapons, starring Josh Brolin and Julia Gardner. Wow, that's a good cast. Opening via Warner Brothers on MLK Weekend 2026. Oh, just before Resident Evil. This will give the director 2 picks in the 2026 calendar. The only other movie scheduled currently on the September 2026 date is an untitled Warner Brothers event movie. Okay, we'll see what that's about. Okay, here we go. Cregger is repped by... Okay, I don't care. I don't care. Deadline first told you that Cregger's Weapons sold to New Line. Okay, so they're just talking about their other projects. Great. All right. Well, yeah. So there you have it. We have another movie, another Resident Evil movie coming out in 2026. So, yeah, I mean, personally, I'm hesitantly optimistic. Like I mentioned earlier, this is something where, it's tough, right? I love Resident Evil. I mean, I've been a huge fan of every single game, even number 6, which wasn't the best, but I thought it was a fun little game. Lackluster, of course, but I've just been a dedicated fan for years. So I played every single one. Resident Evil 2, 3, the original. I mean, I love the GameCube one, but all being said, I really hope, that Sony brings it, and with the inclusion of Cregger and the other writer, hopefully this will be a huge improvement to the past movies from Sony on Resident Evil. like I said early on in this video, right? The only thing I ask from Sony and from any filmmaker adapting Resident Evil is adapt the source material. I mean, I think Sony tried to go off on their own journey and do their own thing with the IP of Resident Evil, and it just didn't work out, right? I didn't see the last one called Raccoon City or Welcome to Raccoon City, but from everything, all the trailers and reviews that I watched, I mean, it was a lackluster movie. It seems like, right? I'll watch it at some point just to see if I could bear it, but yeah, Sony, just bring it, okay? Like, if you're saying it's gonna be more faithful to Capcom, let us see it, you know? And right now, you know, video game movies and adaptations in both the big and the little screen or the small screen, we have seen an improvement. I mean, if we look at, you know, the Fallout more recently on Amazon, and Last of Us and HBO, which season 2 is coming out soon. I mean, I think those are great examples of awesome video game adaptations where it's not the exact same thing as, you know, any of the video games in terms of like story beats. It's not the exact same thing, though Last of Us did a pretty good like beat by beat you know, adaptation of the story with some modifications, and obviously like a little bit more summarized because you know, it is a show. It's not a game where you the player control the experience and what you do and all that, so they really had to like water it down a little bit. But I think Last of Us did a really good job of adapting the first game, and even there are certain things that they added to, you know, some of the side characters that come out in the game, where in the show they actually like put the spotlight on them and expanded on their backstory and the things that they do and how they're involved in certain sections of the story, where in the game they were kind of more sidelined, because in the game you're just really focused on the perspective of the two main characters, especially Joel. But that being said, I thought it was an amazing example of a good video game adaptation. I mean, they stayed faithful and true to the original video game from Naughty Dog, and so I thought that was great. And then with Fallout, they added to the lore and the world of Fallout. You know, the creators admitted that the Fallout Amazon show is actually canon to the video game franchise. So in many ways, it's a Fallout 4, right? Or yeah, Fallout 5. So it's like a sequel to the video games in many ways. And you know, even though it is its own story in the show, they did a great way. They did great. They did great in really capturing the feel and the world of Fallout. I mean, there's even some story beats in the show that are literally like side quests in the game, which I thought was great, like the supermarket scene. I remember that from, I think it was Las Vegas or Fallout 3. I mean, I'm sure they always have something in like a grocery store or abandoned buildings and stuff like that. But anyways, they just did a really good job, and the characters were, I mean, the ghoul was amazing. I really enjoyed them, and the main character, I forgot her name, but she really portrayed the vault dweller coming out into the real world and experiencing all that and being naive and everything, kind of stuck in the 1950s or whatever, you know, 1950s vibe or whatever. Being a fish out of water is what I'm trying to get at. So she did a really good job. So, you know, those are two examples, and there's a bunch of others, not to get in go on a tangent about this, but basically, you know, we also got Castlevania on Netflix. We got you know, the Sonic, I haven't seen the Sonic movies, but I've heard great things overall. I mean, I haven't heard that they're like, you know, award-winning movies, but at least they're fun movies and capture the characters decently. If you guys disagree, let me know. I haven't watched them. Let me know if I should watch them, take the time to see them. But anyways, there's a lot of great stuff coming out, and with that, I think what all that's done has really kind of set the bar of video game, movie, and TV adaptations. It's set the bar higher. So I think this movie's probably coming out during a good time where we already have some examples of how to do video game movies and shows well. So Sony now has no excuse, because Sony has examples from other studios that have done it and have done it successfully. So Sony, you gotta bring it again. Like, do Resident Evil justice, adapt the source material, bring us the characters from the games to the movie, and if you just have to, like, you have a storyboard from the video games, you have it all mapped out. Just adapt the games, and if you do your own thing, then maybe do something like Fallout did, where it's like some like canon to the video games, but it's like a spin-off or a different perspective. Maybe instead of following the main characters, now we have some other main characters which are living in Raccoon City during the outbreak, and then we're following them, kind of like a Resident Evil Outbreak, where in Resident Evil Outbreak you play as other characters that aren't the main line protagonists, but they're dealing with the same things as the main characters are dealing with during the outbreak in Raccoon City, but then you're getting different perspectives. So I think maybe something like that might be cool, and then make it somewhat canon, or make it canon to the video games, and make it make sense. And maybe in the movie, we could, through their perspectives, maybe we do see the main characters from the video games, but from a third person view. Maybe they pass by, maybe they interact with these characters, maybe they don't, right? Or maybe we get some obscure protagonist from the video game, where instead of watching a movie where you're watching Leon and Claire's Resident Evil 2 story put on display on the big screen, we follow the weapon shops, I forgot his name, but the weapon shops owner or something like that, the gun shop owner. Not saying that that's what I want, but I'm just saying, just as an example. Or maybe Ada Wong, maybe we follow Ada Wong and it's like her perspective. But truly, I just want to see like the main characters, and that's it, if I'm being honest. I just want to see Chris and Jill and Claire and Leon on screen, and maybe this first one again, if we go in order, and we're going to be really faithful to Capcom and the games that they've created. Let's just do Resident Evil 1, or let's do Resident Evil 0 and take it from there. Or maybe we go out of order and get kind of crazy with the franchise, and then we start out with Resident Evil 2, but then the second movie in this new franchise will be Resident Evil 1, and I don't know, maybe we just want to do that, and then like leave it up to the audience, whether they're fans or not, like just piecing everything together from movie to movie, right? And kind of like doing callbacks. But anyways, enough of that. So all that to say that I am hesitantly optimistic, but honestly, I'm looking forward to seeing what Sony comes up with in this next Resident Evil movie. I'm gonna give it another chance. It's been a good amount of years since we had a Resident Evil movie. I'm not counting Raccoon City. I think that movie came out during COVID, if I'm not mistaken, but I never watched it. So it's been for me personally, I haven't watched any other movie for any Resident Evil movie in a while. So I have a good space between this next movie coming out and the previous ones, so hopefully it will be a palate cleanser and not another regret from me spending the money and buying tickets to watch this movie. So anyways guys, I'll leave it there. Enough. I could go on for hours about Resident Evil, and I'm sure at some point we'll be talking about some other Resident Evil, either news, or I'll make some content on Resident Evil. But with that, guys, like, what's your thoughts about this? Are you excited about this next movie? And do you have faith? Do you have faith in Cregger, the director? Have you seen Barbarian? If you have, based on that, do you have faith that Cregger, the filmmaker and director of this next Resident Evil movie, will do justice to the franchise? So yeah, what are your theories? What are your hopes? What are your prayers? And yeah, well, what would you like to see in this next movie? So let us know your thoughts, and for the first 10 people that leave a comment down below, I will personally send you a wallpaper image that is inspired by the art of Resident Evil. This image is something that you could use for your mobile phone wallpaper or your desktop computer, and I will put some space there for you to be able to personalize it, like adding your name or something like that, and also provide you instructions on how you could edit it and of course customize it or personalize it on Canva. So with that, guys, thank you for watching, and for more on gaming, comic books, the latest online deals, anime, and more, subscribe to our free weekly newsletter, Pop Pulse Digest. And yeah, until next time, I'll see you around.